I'll never forget the first time I preached in my home church in San Antonio. It was a surreal experience. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Friday, July 17th, 2020. Midway through my second year of seminary, I preached in my home church, First Presbyterian Church in San Antonio, on the Sunday after Christmas. A Sunday, I note, which is one of the least attended services all year at most congregations. I still remember the text. It was from Luke 2, the story of Simeon and Anna, two old people who rejoiced when Jesus' parents brought him to the temple in Jerusalem as an infant. And I remember both the title and the substance of that sermon. I also remember what didn't happen. Today's reading is from the 4th chapter of Luke, where Jesus returns as an adult to the synagogue in Nazareth where he'd been raised, his home church, if you will. Let's listen to what happens in this passage. When Jesus came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. Then he began to say to them, "Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." What happens next is that Jesus tells the congregation that the words of the prophet have now been fulfilled in him. The congregation's response, at first it was pleasant enough, but ultimately they hustled him to the nearest cliff to throw him off to his death. Why is that? Why were they so profoundly offended that they would want to kill him? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Let's suppose one of our young people came back to Tyler and was invited to preach, and that one told us that as part of their sermon, they were personally the fulfillment of scriptural promises. Well, being polite people that we are, we probably wouldn't rush to stone them, but we'd be profoundly worried and upset. What a monumental ego it must take, we'd say to ourselves. What a monumental self-delusion to believe that one is the fulfillment of Scripture. After all, we remember this kid from her days in Sunday school and youth group. We remember the troubles she used to get in and the childish hijinks she used to pull. No way could she be the second coming of the Messiah. Forget that Scripture really does promise a second coming. We just don't really think it will happen in our time, let alone in our town, to say nothing of it happening in our church. Neither did the members of Jesus' home synagogue. I'll return to this passage tomorrow and say more about the substance of what Jesus says. But for now, it's important for us to know that what he said upset his lifelong friends and family. Oh, and if you're wondering what didn't happen after I preached in San Antonio, the congregation didn't swoon with the brilliance of my preaching. There wasn't a rush of new converts inspired by my words, but also no one got angry. Not angry enough to threaten to throw me off the brow of a hill anyway. It was just an ordinary, run-of-the-mill sermon in a half-filled sanctuary that no one remembers. Now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.